Welcome to Beyond the Next Chapter. I'm your host, Whitney Clark, and today we are answering a big, important question for parents. What kind of books should you read to your kids? There are millions, if not billions, of choices out there from kids as young as a year-old to up to 12. So we brought in some experts for us today. That includes Kylee, Cruz, my friend and co-anchor, who has an adorable daughter, Chloe, who's turning 2 later this year. She loves books. And we also have Terri Clark. She's the literacy director of Read On Arizona. So thank you guys both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
excited for the conversation.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Kylee, I'll start with you. When did you first read to Chloe? When did she start loving books?
Well, as a new mom, I was always, and still am, always about like, okay, I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. And the big thing from the research that I did, even, before I actually had her, was you got to start reading like early on. So I swear it was like day 3 and I'm like, we got to read to her. I'm acting like I'm behind. I'm like, I didn't read to her the first 2 days because, I delivered her.
Yeah.
But we started and have been reading to her ever since. We read a lot. Reading's like a big part of our routine. And honestly, it's nice because with toddlers, they're running around everywhere. And if I can get her to sit and like look at her books, and she sometimes, I don't want to use air quotes, but she'll, read her little book and go through the pages. And then at night, that's a ritual. We always read, as many books as we can. She'd like me to read like 12 books to her, but we're like, okay, pick 3. But a lot of times it's like 5 or, it keeps going.
Yeah.
But reading has been something that we have done at a very early age. And, in the beginning, they're so little, they're just like, but over the months and months, it's just crazy to see how much she loves it. She loves books. She loves picking out books, and we've got them all over the house.
Oh, I love that. And,
great.
Terri was just telling me she did the same thing with her sons. She picked 3 every night. Is 3 like some magic number, or is that just a good variety for kids to have 3?
I think there's no magic number, and we did 3, and it's a good starting, and then you let the negotiations begin, because it was like, well, just one more, and we're like, oh no, And I often said sometimes it was the same book 3 times, and if that's how they used their, that was fine. But it's a good start, and especially as they get older and you're doing chapter books or things, it's they get a little longer, and so that can really draw out. But there's no magic number, and if they have the attention to sit down especially right before bed, it's such a soothing routine, and a lot of books really help them kind of like get calm after a very active day. So 3 might be a good way to kind of just make sure that they've sort of settled.
Yeah, one of our books that we read is Bedtime for Zoe. We've been reading this, and she likes, this is a love every, but there's a lot of different options. She likes books with real people too.
Oh, okay.
And so I think, because you can see little kids and you see actual like parents, and so we read this to her every night. We have been, because it kind of gets us in. It's all about routine with little ones. And so this is one of her favorites. And I have other ones we can talk about. But Llama Red Pajama, she also has Llama that she holds.
Oh, that's so cute.
And so every night, even last night, my husband's like, you are so like dramatic. Like, you don't have to be so animated. Because I'm like acting it out. I'm like,
we want that.
Run. He's like, you can tone it down sometimes. But I read like this to her every night. So these are like 2 of the books that we probably do every single night. And it's just part of her routine.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And they're board books. And I was reading a little bit about this before this, that there are specific reasons as to why, the 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds should use board books. And it's a lot about like the texture.
Yeah, absolutely. They're getting familiar with their world, right? So the more they can, touch a book and it has texture and Pat the Bunny was a great classic board book that did that. Or it has flat books so they can use their little fingers, so they're developing their motor skills. So there's a lot going on in that simple reading routine for those little ones. But bright pictures and seeing familiar, rooms or routines and things, a story about bedtime or a story about making your favorite meal in the kitchen or whatever. Those are things that, like I said, just sort of they're piecing things together, and it helps them to get really sort of comfortable with the world around them.
What about like bright colors? Because I notice a lot of like the books Kylee brought in have really bright colors. Is that going to be something that's really helpful for kids as well when they're younger?
Yes. Absolutely. So those board books you'll see, and especially those infant toddler books, really have bright colors, a lot of contrast, because again, their vision is developing and things like that. And then as they get to sort of more 3 and 4-year-olds, you see really big pictures, bright illustrations and stuff, and contrast is still important because, again, it just helps them define shapes and objects and things like that.
You probably read that. This is the Pout Pout. I mean, this is like a classic, but it's so good, and it's repetitive too, and that's also good, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Simple text, but repetition is good. Rhyming is good. Interaction is good. So I brought a couple that I love. One's Press Here, which is just about a simple book about dots and things, but you help them, they really get into it.
Yeah.
Another one that's a little more, and can be, if you really animate it, fun for them is a monster that doesn't want you to push the button.
Oh.
And, and when you do, something happens and then you help fix it. And so kids just find those things funny because they're, if you think about the developmental stage that they're in, they're trying to also not just understand the world around them, but gain a little control of the world around them.
Yeah.
So books that allow them to do that by you open the flap or you press the button or you shake the book and everything goes back to the way it should be is empowering for a little kid.
I bet. How have you noticed Chloe's taste changed in books? Like, does she like different kinds of books now? Does she just like to read a lot of the same ones over and over?
I mean, we have hundreds of books because everybody always buys us books, and I'm always like, oh, okay, I'll buy her a new book. And she has, I mean, like Llama Llama we've read since the beginning, but sometimes it'll kind of ebb and flow. She'll be into books, like she's really into this because she loves Baby Shark, so she's really into this Shark Bite book that I bought her in San Diego. But this is fun because you're able to move.
It's this,
It's all about, and she likes being able to move the shark's teeth. So she's really into this one. But then maybe next month she'll be into something else. So she's got like those OG books, like the classic books that she's really loved all throughout her 20 months. But then she's got some new books that we get that it's like food,
Yeah.
They love something and then they're like, oh, I like these raspberries. So they're interesting creatures, but they're the best.
Well, and it's you've already got this down, but it is really helping them to love reading if finding things that they're interested in. So if they are, my younger one, when he was 2 and 3 year olds, for some reason was fascinated with aquariums and sea diving and things. So we had a lot of books about fish in the ocean. And my older one, when he was that age, was into volcanoes. I know a lot about volcanoes because of that interest, right? And he moved on to the next phase and whatever. But yeah, finding that interest helps them to sort of connect with what they're reading on the, and what they're hearing on the page. And it just, again, books are just one of the best ways to expose them to vocabulary they won't hear in day-to-day conversation, and helps them build a really strong foundation.
Yeah, I'm not a shark person, but now I am because I have shark books because that's like her thing for the summer. She's really into sharks, which is funny.
I love that. Maybe she has a future working in an aquarium as well.
Maybe.
But kids just have their interest that they develop so young, even under 2 years old. What does the science say about reading to kids that young from just a couple days old like Kylee did?
The science is pretty clear on this. Like, do it as early as possible. I can say I read to my kids while they were still in my womb. I had the book and the dog had his head on my stomach and I was reading the book and again, it's partly because our brain, their brain is wired to hear and absorb sort of the language that they're being exposed to, and they hear your voice and then reading is really based fundamentally on language development. So the more you read to them as early as possible, the more you're helping them to develop that strong language skills that is going to help them, in kindergarten to third grade. But it really starts with just hearing good stories and again and again and again.
My mom's a kindergarten teacher and has been a teacher for 40 years. And she says that you can really tell those kids who parents have always read to them and it's such a big part of their routine, as opposed to maybe parents who life is busy and maybe reading hasn't been a priority. And there's a huge difference when they come into kindergarten based on the kids who have that strong reading background.
Yeah, totally. They're getting used to books. They know what to expect, or at least they're going to expect a story. They're going to expect something fun. Kylee, how have you chosen books for Chloe? I know you now let her choose books herself, but how did you, at least in the early stages, choose what to read to her?
Well, I'm a Googler, so I'll be like, best books for newborns, best books for 1-year-olds, and then just friends. You have baby showers, like one of our, which I love this. Shout out to Taylor, one of my besties. But, she wrote a little message, and so it's always fun. We hope you love this book as much as Ellie does.
Oh, cute.
And so now with other people having babies, I feel like it's great to give them books like that Chloe loves. And be like, hope you like this one too. So some of it is just research, others books that I see that I think are interesting, or friends or family giving books. It's just kind of a combination, but I feel like I'm always like on the hunt for a great book, because you think like, oh, we have so many books, but then I see another one, I'm like, this one's amazing. There's so many great kids books out there. It's just so fun. And it's so fun once you see them really blossom and like pick out their books and go to their bookshelf and get excited and open the pages, and it's like and then talk.
Yeah.
And who knows, she's kind of a little chatterbox, at least with her mom and dad and Grammy and stuff like that, but she's using so many words, and some of my friends are like, wow, she's saying so many words at 20 months. And I'd like to think it's probably because of all the reading we've done.
It is. I can definitely tell you that. Again, like I said, books are kind of a magic tool that you don't realize is doing what all the things it's doing. You know, when you're just doing something as simple as reading with your child. And I think the other thing, is it really books allow them, like I said earlier, to sort of explore their world. And their world, especially in the young years, is pretty contained. So books can kind of broaden things out. If they haven't ever seen a llama or a zebra from the zoo or whatever, then they have that in there. And again, like what we're finding in the science is really saying is background knowledge really helps a child as they're acquiring their literacy skills, so to be able to be that proficient reader. And background knowledge comes from all the different stories and vocabulary and things you've been exposed to as you've been read to for your whole life.
Yeah. And you don't have to, I know you are like the biggest advocate of public libraries. You don't have to buy all these books. Right. We have library cards. We go and she'll just look at books. And they also have story times, which are great. And they're free. And there's libraries all across the valley that have free story times. Like, take advantage of that. And from Chloe's age to 3, 4, 5, 6, use those free resources, because it's great to see librarians who know and have so much research with kids interacting and reading in such a fun, collaborative way.
Totally.
So I will be full disclosure. Both my boys had library cards by basically before they were 3 months old. And Saturday morning they knew our routine was we're going to the library. They'd take their little bag and they'd go and pick out the books they want to check out. And I'd make them have to go put like 10 back because you could only take 15 out at a time. Right. And I was like, you gotta just, but that reading routine and every Saturday taking advantage of the library is absolutely one of the best ways to get them hooked on reading as well. In fact, I knew it was working because I came home one day and they had put together a little library in their room, and they had a checkout stand, and Mom had to apply for a library card.
That is so cute. Oh my goodness. I love, you're right. I love public libraries. There are so many amazing things you can find there. I was a library kid growing up. It sounds like choice is what's really important for kids, because when you're young, you can't make a lot of choices for yourselves. Your parents are choosing everything. How important is just letting your own kids pick what they want?
I say it's any book exchange, when I see a school planning a book exchange or a parent going to the library, it is let them choose the books, let them find books, and if you're choosing books for them, find books that are of their interest, like you're doing. Sharks might not have been what you'd pick, but she likes them, and so you're encouraging that. It is super important, because at this point you're really just trying to get them interested and engaged. And we're all, that's just human nature. If you're interested in something, you're going to pay more attention, and you're going to, be hooked a little easier than if somebody brought me a book about Harley Davidsons, I might not, sit through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But if they bring me a book about, traveling to Italy, I'm there.
Oh, same here. Give me that one.
Kylee, what advice do you have for parents who might struggle to even get their child to focus and to want to read at the end of the day?
Oh gosh, I think starting early, since it's always been a part of our lives, we haven't really had that challenge. Yes, in the afternoons after nap and she's got a little energy, she's wound up and running around the house, but bedtime, she knows that's her reading time. She's in her sleep sack. She's getting ready to have some great reads. Advice? You're more of the expert. What's the advice would you have, you think? Because we thankfully, it's kind of just come natural because we've been doing it since she was such a baby.
Yeah, and again, if you have a routine, great. But if I had 2 active boys, and I was sharing this with Whitney earlier. I found that sometimes they just needed to run some of that energy off. So I would just read while they were playing around me, and then I'd ask a question like, "What do you think's going to happen next?" Or, "Oh, why do you think he did that?" And they would offer up the answer. They were listening. They were processing. It just they didn't have to sit still. So I also very much encourage sometimes it's find the routine that works for you. If bedtime, my niece has a youngest one who just when she's ready for bed, she is out. So there is no lead up to it. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, great, then read before bath time, right? So get it in early because you know that she's quick to go to sleep. So it just really is, also snack time or I also say always have books in the back of the car so they, you can if you can read to them while they're driving someplace and things like that. So there's lots of opportunities. It doesn't have to be one way.
Yeah, the road trip that we've taken a few road trips to California. I'm in the back seat. I'm like, okay, with my books and do another book and another book. And then I'm like, oh boy, my voice is shot. I've been reading for so long.
Cough drops in the back seat.
Seriously.
So sort of, we've talked about kind of like 0 to 2, 0 to 3. As Kylie's daughter gets older and as kids get older, how should parents, I guess, change their approach to the types of books that they either choose for their kids or that they let them choose?
Again, I think each one, so preschool age, I really like to say still bright and big illustrations, but also books that kind of help them explore the world a little bit more. So I brought one of the classics was We're Going on a Bear Hunt. It's a family that's going on a hike. It's something that the kids can relate to, but then there's a lot of repetition and rhyming and action you can do, like swishing through the grass and things like that. So kids love that. But there's some comfort in the repetition of the refrains and stuff. That's always great. Another one I brought was I tried to bring a few that were Arizona-esque. So there was a coyote who swallowed a flea is based on the very well-known rhyme of there was an old lady who swallowed a fly. But again, that just the rhyming and the big illustrations. It's actually written by a Tucson author.
Oh, cool.
And things. So, can find things like, desert pictures and things kids can relate to if they're here in Arizona and things. So there's that. And then animals are always a great thing because, again, just kids sort of can relate to learning about different kinds of animals. I always joke about, I guess I had read a lot of animal books to my boys, and so they were playing some game, and, you do every letter of the alphabet, you have to pick an animal, and suddenly they were saying ibex and things like that. Wow. And they were like, I don't think we could play with this 10-year-old because he's already knows more animals than we do. And I was like, okay. Just finding sort of ways they can explore and observe things that they aren't day-to-day exposed to.
Yeah. I feel like Chloe, some of her words she's using now are animals. Like she says totally. Animals all the time.
She loves animals. And I'll admit, I don't know if I want to admit this, I'm not maybe the biggest animal person.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. She is obsessed with animals. She loves dogs. She loves cats. She loves any animal at the zoo. We have a zoo membership. We love
for her.
Oh,
Oodles of animals.
Oh, but she likes.
She's such a great illustrator.
Okay.
So
okay, I don't have that one. I'm gonna have to get that or do a library with it. But yes, animals, that's a huge part of the books that we read, and just all of the sounds that they make, and having her talk about the sounds. It's so fun to be like, what is a owl? She likes owl say. Yeah. What does a bear say? And it's so cute.
Yep.
What does you talked about rhyming and how all of these books have rhyming. How does rhyming help their brains as they develop?
Again, it's sort of a core concept in language development. So, right, your brain is processing that sounds, have sort of an individual letter has a sound, but then parts of a word have a sound, and then and so it's just again a great way for them to really start to process and play with language by having being exposed to a lot of rhyming in books that do it really well. Really
Yeah,
well.
there are so many great books out there that have so much rhyming in it. And then there's other books like this one she also really likes, Brave Little One. This author, I'm assuming you've heard
Yeah,
before.
this is a great one.
Marianne Richman. But this, obviously these books are fun and they're great, but this is like talking about being brave and be brave to stand up and try something new, be brave to step out when it isn't for you. And she loves this book, and this has a really good message. And obviously she's a year and a half, but it's teaching her about bravery, and it's just so cute when I watch her look at the pictures, and she's so into it. And I hope, in a way, she's one day will kind of take that message with her as well.
Yeah, again, I think you're tapping into what I said about kids are trying to get control of their world a little bit, and so when things are new or different, like how do you work through that? One of my younger son's favorite book series was Scaredy Squirrel, and Scaredy Squirrel is a squirrel that wants to stay in his tree and just keep life the way it is, but he has a sort of a contingency plan, and one day he falls out of his tree and he has to really kind of think on his feet, and like his worst nightmare happens. He's not in the comfort of his own home anymore, and so the adventures of that and how he processes and how he compensates and how he plans for that help kids. Like one day your kid's going to go to school and they won't feel comfortable right away, right? Like what do I do, and and things. So these kinds of books, or I brought also Todd Parr does some great illustration books, but they're really simple about like the Don't Worry books. So like kids have big feelings when they're little,
huge,
and they don't always know right away how to regulate those or what to do with them. And so having a few books that show you how to be brave when you're in a new situation, or show you when you get mad, because maybe your sibling took the toy that you were playing with or whatever. What do you do? Sometimes you just have to shake the mad, wiggles out of you and stuff like that. So I just think books can be really helpful at home for situations when, your child's sort of going through a developmental phase where they have big feelings and they don't know what to do with them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I didn't realize the big feel. I mean, I knew, tantrums, but the big feelings are real, right? And so, yes, we're getting books about like hitting, because, toddlers hit and how you navigate that. And there's also helpful things like potty training,
right?
Books about how you go to the bathroom. And even though she's not potty trained yet, just starting that conversation of her looking at these books, a little gross sometimes, but, I'd like to say it'll hopefully help when we get to the potty training phase.
Well, I don't know. I had this book when I was a kid called Everyone Poops. It's like a pretty famous book. And it's like literally the whole book is like about how every person on this like earth goes to the bathroom. But like now that I think, for us when we were growing up, we thought it was funny because it's like, oh my God, poop, LOL, but now looking at it from that perspective, if you're trying to potty train, it's like, okay, well, everybody does this. Animals, like it literally is like anyone that walks the earth does this. So I can see how that could be super helpful.
We have several pooping books, which is so funny because before I'd be like, oh, TMI, but now it's like, hey, everybody does it. We need to talk about it. Have that open dialogue. Have pictures, both illustrations and the real thing, because like I said, she likes, books like this where they see. And I didn't bring that one, because I thought, where they see real kids and real poop. Yeah. And I think she knows all about poopy now. And she tells me, she's still in a diaper because we haven't done the potty training, but she'll tell me poopy. And I know, okay, let's go up and change your diaper. Yeah. So I think that's all because of those books, those poopy books.
I tell you, they're just trying to understand their world and all the wacky, weird things that they have to suddenly be able to do or is expected of them when,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's kind of even like with kids' books and movies, like a lot of them tackle some really big subjects that can be difficult even for adults. I reread Charlotte's Web when I was on vacation, and I was crying at the end and forgot how sad it is and like what it teaches kids about loss and friendship and so many things. So that's a book I would imagine for kids who, when they got a little bit older. So, as Kylie's daughter gets older, I mean, we're talking 9, 10, 11, 12, like chapter books.
Yep.
How soon do kids start with the chapter books? I guess it just depends on their reading level.
Yeah, and again, it depends on, there's books that you're reading with them and sort of maybe they're following a little bit, and then there's books you're reading to them as part of, we had an amazing sitter when my kids were little that was reading the Chronicles of Narnia to them, and my son was 3 and the other one was 8.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Right. And they were playing, and just like I described earlier, playing around her while she was just sitting there reading the story to them. So, and I think I shared with you jokingly, like, I was reading a chapter book with my son who was in elementary school, and my other son was in middle school. And we were all so engaged in it that I had to hide the book because I knew they'd finish it without me. And I literally came home the next day from work, and they're like, "Where is it?" I was like, "I knew it." So we're finishing it together. Yeah. So, again, like, there's chapter books. There's sort of more sort of in the K3, it's books with more story. I brought one. Roxaboxen is just one for me, a classic. It's kind of based on a part of Yuma, Arizona.
That's where she's from.
I know exactly.
Oh, that's so cute. Wait,
I had the book.
I've never heard of this book.
But it's so also cute. What I love about it is it's really a story about imagination. It's about a group of kids who basically build this imaginary, village, so it just takes kids on a real imaginary journey, and it shows them the power of their imagination, which is what I love about it. And my sister was a librarian, and so that was one of her favorites, and I thought I'd share that one. There's also some great ones. I also think it's a great time to kind of make kids think about what this one, Count on Me, this little girl sees that everybody has a passion, and she's trying to find her passion and what she loves, and it turns out she loves math. Right? So again, like turning things like upside down, and it's perfect. Her parents are like, it's perfect to love math. If that's your jam, then we're gonna go there and stuff. So we love to see sort of books that sort of show different points of view. Another one I brought was Night Owl, which is a Caldecott winner. This little owl that goes through night training.
Oh, that's cute.
To become a knight, and he gets put on night duty, which is when the big dragon comes to storm the castle, and he ends up he doesn't have the strength to duel him, so he ends up outsmarting him by ordering a pizza and talking with him and making him a friend, and then the whole danger of the dragon and he's a hero for the whole castle. So, like, kids can really, that story has, a beginning, a middle, and end, and parts to it, and highs and lows. And kids really, I think, at that age in the K3 space, need that sort of beginning to really understand, like, challenges and how you overcome it. And then the other thing is, kids that age love funny, and stuff. So humor books are great. Another one, this book has no pictures. But
that's BJ Novak from The Office.
Novak. That's a great one for read alouds to a group of kids and things, because you have to read aloud and say every word that's on the page, and some of them are nonsense words, and it just kids will start cracking up as they see what words you have to sort of sound out or say.
See, I need this list. I'm like, can you send me that so I can make sure I'm checking off? Okay,
I'll send you my list.
And
but
that's like what ages?
That's like a 5 to 8.
5 to 8.
K3 or 4.
Okay.
But again, like anybody going to a read aloud at a classroom, I'm like, oh, do this one, because it's just fun to see the kids love to see the adult have to sort of make silly noises and stuff. So it's a great one. And then this is another one that I love, which is called After the Fall, which is about what happened to Humpty Dumpty after he fell.
Okay, cool.
And almost to your point, sort of, it's about kind of overcoming challenges and stuff. It's a great one for just sort of familiar classic with a twist is, I guess, what I say. And it's, again, a Caldecott winner. So he's a great author, Dan Santan. So, but for the older kids, can I hit a couple of those?
Of course,
for the older kids? So this is where, much like you, Charlotte's Web was on my list, but I was like, I'm only going to bring one.
I feel like everybody knows Charlotte's Web.
I'm only going to bring one classic, which, again, the classics like Charlotte's Web are great. I brought Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's funny, but it's also got a lot of great family dynamics, and kids can really relate to it because the kids are the ones going through the story, right? Like the protagonist is a kid. So that's always a great one. But there's a couple new ones that I wanted to hit on. This is a pretty recent book called The First State of Being, which is a National Book Award finalist and also a Newbery Medal winner. And it is about a time-traveling teenager.
Oh, interesting.
So very sort of fish out of water, and like, what do you do when and things, but very.
Is that like 9?
So yeah,
10,
this is 9/12.
9, 10,
Okay.
11, 12.
Or
Okay.
or up. This one I just discovered a couple months ago called Olivetti, and it is a story told by the point of view of a typewriter, but it's a mystery. And the typewriter has to help a teenage boy. His mom disappears.
Oh, wow.
And Tom Hanks and others just had turned. They talk about it, and that's how I caught. I was like,
Oh,
wait.
interesting.
Yeah, they loved it.
Is it like one of those books that almost like adults could read and enjoy?
You
'Cause
can
sometimes
read
there's
yes,
adult books, kids
absolutely.
books like Charlotte's Web. Then as an adult, I enjoyed it, even though it's a kid's book.
Absolutely. And then the last two I'll hit. This is another Dave Eggers is one of my favorite.
Yeah.
The Eyes and the Impossible. It's another. It's won a number of awards. It's told from the point of view of a dog who lives in the city park and sort of is responsible for sounding the alarm when something dangerous is happening or different and things. And he's got bison friends and he's got other friends and sort of just the story and the adventure that they go on when something unusual happens in the park.
Oh.
So it's really beautiful.
And he's a really good writer, too.
Really beautiful.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
And then this one also is pretty, this was written, I think, in 2017 called Fish in a Tree. And what I love about this is the main character is a girl who has dyslexia. And so she is moved to a new school and really struggling with school and academics and making friends, all of the things that kids in that 9-12 are real to them. So it makes dyslexia really real for people. Like, you understand why why kids act out if they're not doing well in school and they constantly are being asked to do something they're not very good at. But the wonderful story is that she gets a teacher who believes in her and sees it as something that he can help with, and sort of you see her sort of succeed at the end. But it's really, for me, like I say, if you don't understand what a struggling reader in middle school looks like or why kids struggle, this is a great book to read to understand what that can mean to someone when they don't come to reading easily. So I brought that one just because I'm turning everybody on to this one, just to say this is what struggling readers look like, and they're human and they're trying as hard as they can. It's just much more challenging for them, and it makes it real.
I love that. Oh my gosh. We have a lot of reading to do.
Oh my goodness. This table is full.
We need another table. Oh my goodness. Thank you guys so much both for being here. I love this, and I'd love to see Chloe grow up and become a reader. And you told me the other day she was in the store and she picked her own book and got so excited about it. And it's just so sweet to see. And Terri, you always do such a fabulous job of helping with anything reading related. Is there anything else you guys want to add or like ask each other that I haven't asked yet?
Ooh, okay. So I don't obviously want it to just be about myself, but let's say for any parent watching, they've got toddlers, 2-ish. What is your advice to keep the reading and the love of reading going throughout the years, especially those early years as they're learning how to read themselves?
Oh, it's a great question. And again, I think it's some of what we talked about was just make it fun, make it about something they're interested in. I think it's interesting. My younger son, when he had a teacher one year that sort of had a set list, and those were the only books that you could read and things, and he was reading above his, and so these books were not that interesting. They weren't challenging. They weren't interesting. And I did go to her and I said, we're going to lose this reader if you keep it, this sort of small. And and so we agreed on some other books and things. And so you do have to I guess my advice is, if you see that starting to happen, or, is be your child's best advocate, and your child better than anyone. And so, listen to your gut. If they love, I said, I read so many books about aquariums and deep sea diving and oceanography and things, but, tap into that. Know your child best. But also, if you see them struggling, don't be afraid to ask their teacher if they're already in school, or, there's great librarians are a great resource. Also, there's lots of nonprofits in the community. They're great resources on. We have something on our website that's 50 fun activities for kids of all sorts of ages. just because reading doesn't have to look one way. And there's lots of, and then the other thing I would say is just, listen to them. And when you make it fun, when you make it connect to their interests and you make it something that's a positive experience, they're going to be that reader that they were meant to be.
And like you said, and sometimes Chloe, it gets a little squirrely in the afternoons or whatever. They do not necessarily have to be sitting right here by you looking. I mean, they're absorbing it, even if they are running around the house.
Absolutely. I think that was I needed to do a better job. Like, even when I realized my own niece was like, well, he won't sit at bedtime. And I was like, that's okay. Just do this, do that, find it, And we got to be flexible on when and where reading happens to make it fun and engaging and of interest to them. And then once they're hooked, they're off to the races.
That was a really helpful tip I had never heard until today when you told me about during snack time, even when they're playing outside or running around, like, you don't have to be like sitting there reading every word. And I think that can be intimidating for parents if you're thinking that that's how it has to be. But it is helpful to know there's like flexibility as long as the reading is happening and they're still listening to some extent. That's really helpful for sure.
Every child is so different, right? Yeah. You've got some that like to sit and focus on things, and then others that want to run around and they like to play. And so you might have one kid that wants to sit with you and read, another that's running around the house. They're still absorbing the information just in a different way.
Yeah, and I say also like graphic novels for kids that are a bit, that are great, and you might think, oh, well, they're kind of like comics. Comics have amazing vocabulary. Let me tell you, they might not have a lot of words on the page, but they have amazing vocabulary. So let's break it down. And what are we trying to do? Are we trying to build their vocabulary so they're a great reader? Or are we just trying to hit them with a lot of overwhelming amount of print on the page that shuts them down?
Yeah.
So, again, flexibility, listen to your gut, know your kids, but also make it fun, make it interesting. It should not feel like, a chore. Mm-hmm. Should not be something they have to do. It's something they want to do, and that's when you've started to build a reader.
And you can develop a real bond with your child. I feel like you can, just by reading, it's like you can just get cozy, like Chloe says. Oh, I'm going to start to cry now. I'm so wimpy with you bring up my daughter. But, let's get cozy. Right. And we get cozy and read. And so cozy. Sometimes we do that on the couch. It's like, time to get cozy. And then we put the blankie on and we read. And so it's like I feel like my husband, and he reads to her a lot too. And I have just kind of strengthened our bond with her because we just get to cuddle up and love on her and read her some great books.
That's so sweet. That is so sweet. Oh my goodness. Thank you guys so much for being here. Great conversation. And we'll put the list of some of the books online as well, and we'll have some other resources up as well. So thank you.